This is Gary Atensi with CNTV, and today we're in Boulder, Colorado. I'm here at Java Distribution. Since 1992, they have been inviting you to enjoy the rich flavors of Allegro coffee, not only for the locals, but across the nation and really across the globe. Let's start off a little bit about the two of you. If you could share with me a little bit, Holly, how it is you got started doing this back in 92. You basically have expanded a little bit, and you have a different setup than you did. Is it love of coffee that got you into this, or what was it exactly?
Not exactly, but the love of coffee has grown with the job. Scott wanted to start his own business when we moved here in 1992 from the East Coast and didn't know what he wanted to do and came across office coffee service.
So an entrepreneur basically decided, I'm gonna start my own company here. Was coffee your first choice, or did it something you kind of evolve into?
It was my first choice after looking into alternative business services. I wanted to service other companies rather than service the public at that time. So we began with an office coffee service, and I ended up looking for the finest coffee in the area, which I would recommend to everyone. Go for quality. And so our niche was to have a quality coffee service with a coffee that was nationally well known as being on the higher end. So I had to strike a balance between price and quality. And as we grew over the years, and it did take a few years to get started, I began to hire people, and they became knowledgeable about coffee as we did over time. Another learning curve was understanding how the coffee machines worked, repairing them on the spot, installing them, purchasing them. So, and then we grew over the years and began to offer it to consumers on the internet in 2003.
Interesting. I mean, so it's been a learning experience at the front end, I would imagine, not only educating yourselves, but also educating the folks that you're actually providing this for. Coffee, basically we're talking about in the U.S., 400 million cups of coffee per day has been the estimate. Why do you think coffee still is one of America's favorite fixes, if you will?
Oh, the quality and the quantity, the variety that you can get, the variety.
Yeah. I mean, do people basically, obviously it boils down to taste. I mean, people like the different types of tastes, and is that what quality means when we're discussing quality? Is that what it boils down to?
Yes. Going back in history, there weren't sodas available. There was water, and then there was coffee, even in the 19th century. So the coffee had this momentum historically. Actually going back to Italian monks in the 1400s, when coffee was first discovered by the Europeans as the alternative to water or alcohol. And there weren't that many beverage choices. Now, because there are so many beverage choices, coffee has become far more sophisticated. If you go around the globe, finest farms, areas that have volcanic soil, they have foggy mornings and hot afternoons, and it's on a slope. And if you have those conditions, you will get the best coffees. Every coffee, like wine, is different depending on the soil and the weather. So coffee has become more sophisticated, especially in the United States, to compete with all the other all the other drink alternatives.
Speaking of competing out there, we're talking about something that's popular across the globe. It comes from many geographies. Why don't we educate the viewers out there what it means by single farm or single origin coffee? Explain that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. There are, between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer, those equatorial regions around the globe are the only places coffee is grown. So you have the three great regions are Central and South America. That's southern Mexico through to the northern part of South America. And then there are the African countries, Kenya, Tanzania, again, between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, and Indonesia is the third one. All those coffees have different characteristics throughout the world, yes.
So we're talking about specific beans coming from a specific geography, therefore a very specific taste that people get used to or maybe have never even tried before.
That's so very true. Yes.
One of the things I see with coffee is the fact that basically you've got an ingredient here that people wake up to, they go to bed with. We're not talking about just getting a bump from coffee, but what about decaf for folks that are not looking for the boost so much?
Mm-hmm. Well, the decaffeination process will eliminate 99.5% of the caffeine in the beans. All of our coffees are decaffeinated using the Swiss water process, and there are no chemicals involved. So if you want to have decaf coffee, one of our decaf coffees, it's a chemical-free process where the caffeine is removed mechanically.
Interesting. The Allegro approach when it comes to blending. So we're talking about taking specific beans, blending them together, which creates some unique taste. Tell me what blending means for consumers that don't understand. Is this a single bean or different types?
Well, when Scott was talking about the single origin, they will be coffees just from one single region. But the blends, you do tend to get a more consistent taste from the stores because they're blending it to match a taste profile. So at Allegro, they have a coffee team that sits in their cupping room and will roast, determine how the beans should be roasted for how the bean is grown, and then blend it together to make their different blends.
Blend coffees will be consistent year to year, and they'll achieve the same flavor profile. Whereas with single origin coffee, it's going to vary a little bit year to year depending on the weather and soil conditions.
When I look at blends, I didn't realize there were so many. We're talking about light blends, dark blends, bright blends, round, rich, full body. What is the difference when people are experiencing these? And is it almost something you almost have to sit down and try different ones to find out what pleases your palate?
Absolutely. It's very similar to wine and how every individual tastes things different. And some people have a natural desire for more of a dark, richer roast, and other people like it more light and bright.
I like what you said about wine, because that's when I was researching the product, I realized that it's almost like wine. I mean, not only if you educate yourself more, you therefore can appreciate the coffee more and enjoy it as well. Is that what you try to do with folks, is educate them how important the quality is when it comes to coffee?
Oh, yes. Actually, I think Americans have become far more sophisticated regarding coffee, wine, and all those things, and that benefits us. As a top roaster in the country, we need an educated populace. And so when any of our employees are speaking to the public, they're trying to do that. They're trying to impress their educational knowledge on the customer. And usually the customers are looking for it. They often call us, and they're able to get a person on the phone who's knowledgeable about coffee. They can tell them that an African coffee is fruity, Indonesian coffees are sort of earthy, and in Central American coffees are sort of brighter. And Americans are more used to those coffees.
Interesting. So, I mean, you're definitely doing your part to educate people out there as well. One thing you find out when you've educated yourself is the fact that not all coffees are the same, not all grown the same. Tell us what certified organic basically means when people are looking at that.
A certified organic is a farm that hasn't used chemicals or fertilizers of a chemical nature over at least 3 years. Once they achieve that, they become certified organic. And then just simply continue to be organic. They can use traditional farming methods, but they're not going to be using chemicals. Most people do that, are interested in organics not only for their effect on them, but also what they think happens to the farmlands in all these parts of the world that need protection.
Interesting. So not only is it popular, but I also see one that you have, which is the David Lynch Signature Cup. Tell me a little bit about that. Why is that so popular?
David Lynch is a famous movie and TV producer, and he loves good coffee. And he drinks quite a bit every day. And so he was a coffee enthusiast, sourced out a brand that he liked the best and worked with Allegro to have a private label produced with his name on it.
Are you a fan of this particular label? Is this something that your taste enjoys?
Oh yes, it's the most fun product we have, that's for sure, because people have the most interesting email addresses, and they're fans of David Lynch, which is a sort of a quirky, unusual director. I'm a fan of his movies as well, and he's going to be producing Twin Peaks in 2017, or showing it. I think they're producing it this year, and that should help awareness. If people Google David Lynch coffee, you're going to get us.
That is wonderful. Viewers, take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is their website. First of all, on the website, take a look at the different coffee selections that we're talking about there. We're talking about basically single farm, coming from really across the globe. Like you basically said, we're talking about Indonesia. We're talking about places like the East Africa, Arabia, the Pacific. These are some very specific areas that you're bringing in for folks here. What about, I notice you have a lot of accessories also for coffee as well. Kind of unique to this spot is actually the Celestial Teas. Tell me about that.
Oh, we sell and distribute a ton of Celestial Seasonings tea. It is very popular in Boulder and Colorado. And then the other sundry items that we offer to our offices when we go to service them is the creamer, sugar, hot chocolate, all the things to go along with coffee drinking.
Anything to do with coffee. Is this the typical approach of what somebody's going to be ordering here? Is this, what size of bag is this? And is this whole bean? Is that the normal way that it's shipped out?
Yeah, to our consumers who order online, whole bean is typically how they'll receive it. If they want it ground, we'll grind it professionally for them. Most of the ground coffee we sell is for our office coffee service in restaurants, where although some of them are whole bean and require grinders, most of them want it ground for convenience purposes, and they turn it over very fast and fresh. So these 5-pound bags are what we sell, excepting David Lynch, where we sell these 12-ounce bags. And we also can sell David Lynch in 5-pound bags as well. David Lynch has a light roast from southern Mexico, and also a dark espresso. Those are the two coffees he has. And thirdly, a decaf, which is a French roast decaf.
For someone who hasn't ordered through you before, what would you recommend as maybe the first one to try? Would that be the signature cup?
Actually, I would recommend just generally our best-selling coffee, which is Cafe Blend. And if you like a dark roast, our best-selling dark roast is Veil Blend. Our best-selling light roast is probably what?
Costa Rican.
Okay.
Costa Rica.
Costa Rican, yeah. David Lynch is a big seller and important to us. And I'd love both of his coffees, yes. But you asked me what I would recommend, a brand newbie. I would think it would be Cafe Blend. It's a medium roast. We always try to get a wide appeal. Right. And sometimes people who don't like light roast or dark roast because their palate just doesn't handle it. But being in the middle pleases the most, it does.
Interesting. And for folks that really want an intense experience, what about that of espresso? I mean, that was something that became very popular in the 80s, not only as a beverage, but actually as a way of brewing espresso. Is that something you offer as well?
We have a variety of espresso beans, and some of them brew up nicely in a drip coffee maker as well as an espresso machine, and that would be the Organic Espresso Sierra. Lovely coffee and organic.
Wonderful, Scott. Let me ask by basically end by asking you. This is something that you want to start as your own company. This started back in the early '90s. You've obviously done very well. I mean, like I said at the beginning, it took a while for people to understand and know what you were offering. But now, as the consumer has become more sophisticated and educated, do you find that you have become that way as well and your tastes have kind of evolved as well?
Yes, absolutely. I think when I began the business, it was more being an entrepreneur and starting a new company was my greatest interest. I have become a coffee aficionado for sure. I understand how it's grown, where it's grown, how it's produced and roasted. One thing I would like to tell the public too is that caffeine is generally the same throughout this species of coffee. It's really just one species of coffee. There's some minor variances depending on how dark you roast it, but it's generally how much you put in a brew basket that matters. And these are little things you pick up along the way eventually. The thing I've enjoyed most is knowing in my head the taste of all of our offerings. I think we have 56 offerings excluding David Lynch. And there's David Lynch has another 3 offerings.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Scott and Holly McGee. We are here in Boulder, Colorado. Once again, this is a company that began back in 1992, Java Distribution, bringing you quality flavor coffee, not only here locally, but across the world. This is Gary Atensi with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.